All right, welcome back to Newsmax Now. I've sent Stephen Moore off into the great wilderness of New York and New Jersey to convince them that they need to lower taxes. I wish him well, and I hope he makes it home by Thanksgiving. Earlier today, New York Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin spoke with my colleagues John Bachman and Miranda Kahn and gave them some insight on Roy Moore, Al Franken, and a host of other topics. Here's that interview and what he had to say earlier today.
A lot of Republicans are saying they'd rather have a Democrat in office than have Roy Moore. Well,
so with regards to the impact on the agenda, if you have 51 votes instead of 52, it has an impact on the agenda. As far as this particular situation, you have heard a lot of Republicans. I've spoken out myself. I believe that you have someone who's, when he was in his mid-30s, was preying upon young teenage girls. I have 11-year-old girls at home. The Alabama voters are going to be able to weigh in, but you do have members who are disturbed by what they're seeing for sure, and it's not just Roy Moore. You're hearing it come out with other members who are currently in, like Senator Franken.
Do you think he should step down, or do you want to leave it up to Alabama voters to make that decision?
Well, I don't think he is going to step down, but I think he should.
And what about Al Franken?
So there's a new allegation that just came out again. I don't think that he should be serving in the Senate if it's true that, the woman's accusing him of shoving his tongue down her throat. You have a new allegation coming out. Who knows what might come out tomorrow or the next day. So there might be more developments. With what Senator Franken's being accused of, I would say that this is not the type of behavior that you want to see of members of Congress. And we also hear of the story of there's $15 million of settlements that have been paid out for all different kinds of claims against members, but supposedly there's at least a couple of them related to sexual related claims. I have a problem with that. And I'm sure that the members of those districts would like to know who it is. They'd probably say name names. Name names.
We should name names. The names should become public if it's okay with the victims, of course. But there's other stuff we want to talk to you about as well, including tax reform. We know for folks that live in your district, these local and state deductions are critically important. You're being praised for trying to find kind of a middle-of-the-road solution to that. Is that enough, though? I mean, is where the bill stands right now? Are we, very far from a completed product here? Or are you feeling good about the process?
We'll see what the Senate is able to pass. Apparently, there's going to be a vote as soon as next week. We'll see what the Senate version looks like. If it passes, the bill will then go to conference committee. So the House and the Senate would have to pass the same bill, obviously, in order for the president to be able to sign it. For me, I want more of my constituents to see tax relief. I refuse to vote to increase taxes on my constituents. And there are ways that we can improve this bill, and we can get there. Now, I understand that the reason why the state and local tax deduction is as high as it is because our state and local taxes are as high as they are. So it's important for all levels of government to be working on tax relief. But for those who are saying that they're subsidizing New York is a net contributor by far. I could go through all sorts of examples of tax policy and spending policy showing how New York sends more to Washington than we get back in return. So that's even with the SALT deduction, we're a net contributor. There was progress made in the House version. 10,000 property tax deduction cap. That's certainly progress. It's not enough progress because when I crunch the numbers for my own district, I just have too many people who are going to be paying more.
If there are so many districts that are and their representatives are trying to get them the best deal on their tax, which is understandable, of course, is there enough consensus in the party right now to pass a tax bill?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you just saw in the House a version that got enough votes to pass. I would love to be able to improve upon that bill. And by the way, there are people who voted yes, who know of ways to improve upon the bill, and they're advocating for that cause, and that's good. The Senate's going to pass something different. And while the House has good components to the bill, the Senate has good components to their bill as well. I mean, they keep the medical expense deduction. They have the mortgage interest deduction at $1 million, where it's $500,000 on the House side. So they're different, but both have good aspects.
What about the Obamacare mandate? The president, the White House now saying the president is now open to that idea, something he originally wanted to be taken out.
Yeah, I don't know where the votes are in the Senate, but when you had the vote on the skinny repeal back in August, even that didn't pass. Right. So, the question would be for those who voted no then, are they a no still, which means that by including a repeal of the individual mandate, you can't get there. Now, it is good to be able to have hundreds of billions of dollars more available to pay for the best possible tax cut on both the corporate side and the personal side. But you also have to pass a bill, or this is an exercise, where we're spinning in our wheels.
Well, some folks seem like it might be a little wheel spinning problem right now going on. I do want to transition. We got some important issues overseas to talk about. Anybody who's been paying attention know there's a proxy war in Yemen between the Saudis and the Iranians right now. The U.S. seems to be very close to Saudi Arabia. Do you think that's the best strategy, or would you prefer to see more of an even-handed approach, trying to be an honest broker between these rising tensions between Iran and Saudi Arabia?
Well, the Iran is such a dishonest participant in any kind of talks. Saudi Arabia, it's an interesting relationship because you could think of different examples of where we have been aligned on certain issues along the way. But at the same time, there are different aspects of the way the Saudi government operates that we as Americans have a huge issue with. Now, in Yemen, where the Iranians, in part of their effort to finance terror, to engage in bad activities, non-nuclear bad activities, they were helping the Houthis overthrow the government there, and we have to push back on Iranian aggression. Now, one of the interesting dynamics of the way Iran is seeking to become more of a regional power is that now you have all of these countries starting to look at Israel differently. And they're starting to be aligned with this common interest of needing to push back on this regional domination by Iran. So while there are issues that we need to address with different countries in the Middle Eastern region, Iran's aggressive behavior is by far the most threatening behavior that currently exists to the United States and our allies. I mean, they chant death to America in their streets and their holidays. Their intercontinental ballistic missiles, that's not for Saudi Arabia. That's not for Israel. It's intercontinental. It's for us. They call us the great Satan. They chant death to America. That right there is, I think, the biggest threat that needs to be dealt with.
All right, that was an interesting conversation. I want to pick up, actually, kind of where we took off there, because Iran is a officially recognized state sponsor of terrorism, and today, President Trump put North Korea back on the list. They were taken off for reasons I don't understand. They were taken off in 2008 by George W. Bush. I guess he thought, like many before him and after him, if he was nice to them, they'd behave or something. I don't understand. But Tillerson came to the White House press briefing today. You and I have been looking at sound from that. Do you think this administration maybe has got the right course of action? I don't know if it'll succeed or not, but are they taking what, in your view, might be a right course of action?
Well, they're definitely doubling down on their stance to firm stance with North Korea. It's very simple for this president to look back at history and say this doesn't work. So diplomacy doesn't really work with this guy. Taking him off the list didn't really work. Giving them money for their nuclear program, as Clinton did, doesn't work. So I think this president's really looking at history. He's learning exactly what works and what doesn't. What
do you think? Obviously, the optimal result would be regime change. I think he only has one sister left. I think he's actually killed all his other siblings off. But how realistic is regime change in North Korea?
I don't know. It would be so difficult to get in there and get him because he's surrounded by such staunch supporters. A lot of them are out of fear. A lot of them are brainwashed. You know, I've watched a couple specials on North Korea, and it's pretty amazing. It's basically what it is. It's a cult country, and these people will not go against him. And so it's going to be very, very difficult to actually get somebody on the inside to take him out because it's guaranteed they're going to be dead.
Well, China could do it, but we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Okay, look, President Trump said he should have left the UCLA basketball players who got caught stealing from the stores in China stay in jail. Maybe he's right. We're going to talk about that next. But first, this historic look at the Wright brothers' first flight.